A lot of hard things have happened to the famous rock star Bruce Springsteen in the past few years. The born-to-run singer's life has been very hard. She has had to cancel shows because of health problems and deal with a lot of personal problems. Now though, shocking new facts have come to light. Not about Bruce, but about Patti Scialfa, his friend and wife for many years who he met early in his work. What terrible secret has the Springsteen family been keeping from everyone? But first we need to know how he met her. As a child, Bruce felt alone and out of place, and these feelings would later find their way into his powerful music. His life began in Long Branch, New Jersey, on September 23, 1949, at Monmouth Medical Center, where he was born. Douglas Dutch Springsteen and Adele Ann Zerilli, his parents, had very different effects on his childhood. Douglas was his father and had many jobs, including driving a bus. But he had mental health problems all his life. Over the years, these problems got worse and cast a shade over the Springsteen family. At the same time, his mother Adele, who is from Brooklyn, became the family's rock. She was the main source of income because she worked as a law secretary. She kept the family together when things got hard because she was strong and stable. The Springsteen family has deep roots. Bruce's ancestors on his dad's side were from the Netherlands and came to America in the 1700s, when the area was still called New Netherland. John Springsteen, his father's uncle, was a warrior who fought in the American Revolution. Their last name, Springsteen, comes from the Dutch word for a stepping stone, jump stone. This seems fitting given how many steps Bruce would take on his trip. The story of his biological grandfather was just as moving. Someone who came to America from Vico Equense, Italy, with nothing but the hope of making a better life for themselves. He worked his way up to becoming a lawyer, even though he didn't know how to read or write English when he got there. This impressed young Bruce for a long time. Bruce grew up Catholic in Freehold, New Jersey. He had a strict childhood, especially at St. Rose of Lima Catholic School, where he often got into fights with the nuns. Even though he didn't follow the school's strict rules, it had an effect on him that would later come through in his music, which mixes Catholic themes with rock. A lot of the time, his songs showed the working class view he grew up with, and the problems and hopes of regular people became important themes in his writing. But in those early years, it wasn't church or school that interested him. It was music. Things changed for Bruce when he was only 7 years old. He watched Elvis Presley on The Ed Sullivan Show, just like a lot of other people. It wasn't just a show for Bruce, it was a time of discovery. At that point, he knew he wanted to make songs. When his mom saw how excited he was, she rented him a guitar for $6 a week. But it was hard for him to learn. He had hoped for an instant link, but it didn't happen. But that spark of love for music wouldn't go away so quickly. Bruce had grown a bit shy by the time he was in high school. It wasn't important to him to fit in or go down the usual routes. In the end, Springsteen's master remembered that all he wanted to do was play his guitar. He wasn't interested in school or making friends. It made him feel so alone that he didn't even go to his own graduation in 1967. Even college didn't help him figure things out. He went to Ocean County College for a short time but dropped out quickly. He just couldn't pay attention to class. But there was always music. When everything else seemed far away, his guitar became the only thing that made sense. Bruce joined the Army when he was 19 years old during the Vietnam War. But he couldn't join the war because of a motorcycle accident he was in 2 years before, and how he behaved during the physical test. He probably wouldn't have gone to Vietnam if he had failed that test. Many of his friends had very bad experiences there. They went to San Mateo, California, when Bruce was 20 years old, along with his younger sister Pamela. They played in small halls, cafes, and even a movie theater in New York's Greenwich Village. The Castiles were just a band from a small town. But Bruce was driven in a different way. Someone with that spark saw him in Tex and Marion Vineyard, who helped out area bands. Marion really believed Bruce when he told her he was going to be famous, and she was right to believe him. Even though he was talented, it was hard for him to get ahead. Springsteen kept working hard, starting and leaving different bands. He played with a group called Earth in the late 1960s. They played in clubs in New Jersey and bigger venues in New York City. It was hard every night. Late nights, long drives, and not many people. There was no way Bruce would give up, though. He did more than play music. He had to work hard to find his voice. When 1969 came around, Springsteen had another band. This one was called Steel Mill. This group was not like the others. People became interested in them because of their rough sound. They got a cult following because critics liked them. As they played in places other than New Jersey, like Richmond, Virginia, they began to become popular. And even Nashville. There was electricity in the air around them. Springsteen was what made it happen. People noticed how well he wrote songs. One reviewer in San Francisco said he had never been so impressed by an unknown artist. Steel Mill was making progress, but it was still too far away to be truly successful. Bruce moved from band to band over the next few years, always getting better at what he did. When he started the Bruce Springsteen Band in 1971, he became a full-fledged star. His work changed over time. He was known for putting more words into one song than some acts did in their whole albums. He wasn't just interested in making songs. He was making up stories based on the problems of working-class people in Freehold. A few important people, mostly Mike Appel and Jim Kretikos, saw Bruce's drive and believed in him enough to set up an audition with John Hammond at Columbia Records in 1972. He was not a small person, Hammond. He found Bob Dylan, and getting Springsteen to sign with him was a big step. Springsteen had hoped for a smooth break, but this wasn't it. It was in the folk style that Columbia wanted an acoustic record. He didn't want to leave his band, though. He brought his group from Jersey. And over time, this group of neighborhood musicians would grow into the E Street Band. When it came out in January 1973, his first record, Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey, didn't do very well on the charts. It got great reviews. People weren't on board yet, though. It didn't help that Springsteen's words were making people call him the next Dylan, but sales were still slow. There was still something in the air. At one point, Peter Nobler of Crawdaddy magazine said that his voice was as loud as the first time he heard a moving stone. Nobler's support gave Bruce a little more attention, but the fight went on. Springsteen put out his second record, The Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle in September of that same year. Again, reviewers gave it good reviews, but it didn't do well at the box office. The stories in the songs were bigger and more epic. His songs were about teens rebelling, living on the streets, and wanting something more. He mixed rock with rhythm and blues. Rosalita's Come Out Tonight became a fan favorite, even though it wasn't yet a big hit. At the same time, Springsteen's personal life was just as crazy as his work life. It was hard to predict what would happen in the Jersey Shore music scene. He often went to places like Asbury Park and the Stone Pony. This was a rough, simple club that was very important to Bruce's growth. Local bands like John Bon Jovi and Southside Johnny played there, but Springsteen was the one who really stuck out. In the early 1980s, Bruce Springsteen met Patti Scialfa for the first time at the famous Asbury Park bar, the Stone Pony. Bruce was already famous in the area and had made a name for himself in rock music at that point. Patti, on the other hand, was a singer making her way in the Jersey Shore music scene. Patti grew up in Deal, Monmouth County, which is close by and not far from where Bruce Springsteen spent his formative years. Music was always a part of her life. By sitting with her at the piano and working on melodies with her, her maternal grandfather helped her develop her ability in a big way. These sessions are when Patti's love for music really grew. They met for the first time at the Stone Pony, where Patti was singing with a neighborhood band. They hit it off right away, but at first it wasn't passionate. They became friends and often met at the bar after her shows. Bruce would offer to drive Patti back to her mom's house because he knew she didn't have a car. This made their friendship stronger. He liked her singing, and soon she was asked to join the E Street Band as a backup singer for his 1984 Born in the USA tour. There was no denying how well they got along on stage. Bruce's famous sound went nicely with Patti's raw and soulful vocals. Springsteen was married to actress Julianne Phillips at the time, so their friendship was only friendly for a few years. Things started to change in 1988, though. Bruce and Phillips' marriage ended, and his bond with Patti grew stronger. Over time, they spent more time together outside of work. What started out as a close friendship became a full-on romance. Their relationship became well known very quickly. Bruce was still getting over the end of his first marriage when he fell deeply in love with Patti, who had always looked up to him. Patti's been in love with Bruce for as long as I can remember. Her high school art teacher once said, "By the end of the 1980s, Bruce and Patti could not live without each other." They moved in together in New Jersey and then for a while settled in Los Angeles. Bruce and Patti got married off the record at their home in Beverly Hills in 1991. His first marriage to Phillips was very public, but this one was small and private. Bruce saw Patti in a different way. She was not only his partner in real life, but also on stage with him. They had become a real team over the years, sharing not only the attention but also the stress that came with it. Over time, Bruce and Patti began to have children. Evan James was their first child. He was born in 1990 before they got married. In 1991, their daughter Jessica Ray was born. In 1994, their son Samuel Ryan was born. Even though their jobs were busy, the couple was very dedicated to being there for their kids. Bruce talked a lot about how he wanted to be a hands-on dad, something he had trouble with as a child because of his tense relationship with his own father. He and Patti were both determined to give their kids a more safe and loving home life. Patti continued to make her own artistic style while they raised their family. She didn't want to be known as just Bruce's wife or the woman in the E Street Band. Her first record as a solo artist, Rumble Doll, came out in 1993 and showed off her unique voice and songwriting skills. Even though Bruce was on the tour as a guest, Patti really shined and showed that she wasn't just a backup singer. She kept working on her solo business over the next few years, putting out 2 more albums, 23rd Street Lullaby and Play It As It Lays. Even though they were deeply in love, their relationship had its ups and downs. From the time he was in his 60s on, Bruce had problems with sadness. He said in interviews that Patti helped him get through those hard times. She was his rock and the person he could count on when things got tough. Springsteen was honest in his book about how hard it had been to keep things together. As of 2022, Bruce and Patti were grandparents for the first time when Sam's daughter Lily Harper was born. It was a turning point for Bruce, who had always wanted a close family. It's impossible to overstate how much Patti has affected Bruce's songs. She has made important additions to the E Street Band, and she has also helped him come up with ideas for songs. During live shows, the couple often sings songs together. As in the 1980s, you can feel how well they get along with each other now. Some songs, like Tougher Than the Rest and Brilliant Disguise, show how close they are to each other, both on and off stage. Patti was added to the New Jersey Hall of Fame in October 2023. A proper honor for a girl from New Jersey who had made a name for herself as a singer and as Bruce's wife. Bruce couldn't help but beam with pride as he introduced her at the event, calling her a street-smart, fascinating, lovely, sexy, beautiful redhead, and happy that she had finally been recognized for a long time. For Patti, it wasn't just a compliment on her work, her journey with the man she has loved and worked with for decades. It broke my heart when Patti Scialfa recently told me terrible news about her health. At the Toronto Film Festival opening of the new documentary Road Diary, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, Scialfa said that she has been quietly fighting multiple myeloma since 2018. Multiple myeloma is a rare form of blood cancer. In the movie, Scialfa talked about how her sickness has changed her life and work. She said, "This makes my immune system weak, so I have to be careful about what I do and where I go." She also said that she hasn't been able to go to as many shows, but she has been able to perform at some events with her husband in the band, singing a few songs. Her fight with the illness has made her life very different. She thinks of it as her new normal for now. It's still not clear what Scialfa is doing for treatment or her health, but it's clear that she has had to make big changes as she deals with this life-changing illness. Multiple myeloma is a very dangerous type of cancer that affects plasma cells in the bone marrow. It makes the immune system less strong, which makes it harder to fight off illnesses. The health news about Scialfa isn't the only recent health worry in the Springsteen camp. Even Bruce Springsteen had to cancel a few shows in 2023 because he was sick. The famous rock star admitted that he had been dealing with a stomach ulcer, a painful condition that made it hard for him to perform. He talked more about his voice problems later, in 2024, saying that the pain in his diaphragm was so bad that he couldn't sing. Springsteen has told his fans that he isn't done yet, even though he has had some hurdles. He ended reports of a farewell tour with a passionate speech at a show in Philadelphia. "We ain't doing no farewell tour bullshit, hell no," he said. Springsteen has been open in the past about his mental health problems. He started having sadness in his 60s and has talked about them many times. Patti has always been there for him and helped him. Bruce is now without a doubt by her side as she fights her own battle. Their bond has always been a strong example of love, teamwork, and sticking together, and now that Scialfa is sick, it seems even stronger. Springsteen's work doesn't look like it will slow down anytime soon. He's working on a lot of different things, from new music to a planned movie about the making of Nebraska in which actor Jeremy Allen White will play him. Fans are also looking forward to the Disney Plus and Hulu program that will show more about his recent tour. Springsteen has had a huge impact on music and society, and his net worth is now over $1.1 billion. But it's his personal journey with Patti that continues to inspire people.